Ukraine's president has stated his willingness to engage in unconditional ceasefire talks with Russia.
On April 21st, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that Ukraine will hold discussions with the United Kingdom, France, and the United States in London on April 23rd regarding efforts to end the conflict in Ukraine. Mr. Zelensky shared this announcement on the social media platform X following a phone call with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The Ukrainian leader declared that Kyiv is ready and actively seeking to achieve an unconditional ceasefire as a precursor to a long-term peace agreement. He emphasized that an unconditional ceasefire must be the first step on the path toward building peace. This move comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin has proposed bilateral negotiations with Ukraine for the first time in several years. According to Politico, speaking to reporters, President Putin noted that fighting between Russia and Ukraine has resumed following the expiration of the Easter ceasefire. He emphasized that Russia remains open to any peace initiative and expects the same from Kyiv. President Putin stated, "We have a positive attitude toward any peace initiative. We hope that representatives in Kyiv feel the same way." Last week, US President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that Washington would cease its mediation efforts between Russia and Ukraine if there are no clear signs of progress toward reaching an agreement. Last month, through US-led mediation efforts, Russia and Ukraine also agreed to refrain from attacking each other's energy infrastructure for 30 days. However, both sides later accused each other of violating the agreement.
Russia and Ukraine accuse each other of violating the Easter ceasefire.
The Russian Ministry of Defense has claimed that Ukraine violated the Easter ceasefire over 1,300 times, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Moscow's forces intensified shelling along the front line during the truce. According to RT, on April 20th, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces had been targeted by Ukrainian troops more than 1,300 times in less than 24 hours since both sides declared the Easter ceasefire. Russian President Vladimir Putin had earlier announced that the ceasefire would take effect at 6 p.m. Moscow time on Saturday, April 19th, and last until midnight on Monday, April 21st. He instructed his military to remain on high alert and be prepared to respond to any violations or provocations. Hours later, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky responded that Kyiv's forces would act reciprocally. In a statement on April 20th, the Russian Defense Ministry said that despite the announcement of the Easter ceasefire, Ukrainian forces attempted to attack Russian military positions near the settlements of Sukhaya Balka and Bogatyr in Donetsk on the night of April 19th. The ministry added that the attacks had been repelled. The Ukrainian military also deployed 48 drones against Russian forces, including one strike UAV targeting Crimea, the statement added. Ukrainian units fired 444 times using artillery and mortars at our military positions and carried out 900 attacks using quadcopter drones, the Russian Defense Ministry said. According to the statement, there were 12 artillery attacks, 33 UAV strikes, and 7 aerial bombings in the border areas of Russia's western Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod regions, resulting in civilian casualties and injuries, as well as damage to civilian infrastructure. Under the order of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, President Vladimir Putin, all Russian units in the Special Military Operation Zone strictly observed the ceasefire regime and remained at the positions and lines they previously occupied, the ministry stated. Rodion Miroshnik, the Russian Foreign Ministry's ambassador-at-large overseeing war crimes investigations, said earlier on April 20th that Ukraine had used artillery and drones to strike residential areas in several towns and cities in Donetsk and Lugansk regions, as well as in the Kherson region. He added that there had been an increasing number of reports of Ukrainian violations of the Easter ceasefire. During a phone call on March 18th, President Putin accepted a proposal from his US counterpart, Donald Trump, to pause attacks on energy infrastructure for 30 days. At the time, President Zelensky also stated that his country would comply with the ceasefire. However, the Russian Defense Ministry has since reported daily violations of this agreement by Ukraine. The ceasefire on energy infrastructure expired last week.